Hi, my name is Chapin, and I'm director of CreEducate. And I wanted to take just a few moments of your time to discuss how to write comparisons. This is something that you, as scientists, are constantly doing. You're measuring certain things under certain conditions, and you're comparing those measurements with values you got under other conditions. And as you know, much of your time is spent chasing differences and then determining, are they important, are they useful for the field. So there are various ways that you can compare A with B in English, and I want to suggest to you some ways that may be particularly clear for your readers. We often have, when we help our clients prepare manuscripts for publication or describe their results, pilot data for a funding application, they start to compare maybe two, three, four groups from one sentence to the other. The reader loses sight of what is being compared with what in this moment. It can be a mess. So, to help you, I'd like to give you a couple of ways to talk about your comparisons that, if you do them consistently, you can avoid confusion. Look at this statement here. A was large in bimodal circuits relative to monomodal circuits. Now, we're going to assume that what they mean is that A was larger in bimodal circuits than it was in monomodal. That means A in bimodal circuits is larger than A in monomodal circuits. To make this comparison clearer, I'm going to recommend one, in your comparisons, always use a comparative term. So not large, but larger. So comparative terms are larger, largest, right? Greater, greatest, smaller, smallest. You're not just going to write small, large. You're going to make use a comparative term. And then you have two ways you could proceed. One is to use this structure. You take the thing being compared, in this case A. You use the comparative term, in this case larger. Then you mention one half of the comparison, in this case bimodal circuits. Then you mention the other half of the comparison, monomodal circuits. So when you get something like this. Another way you can write comparisons is not to start with the thing that you're comparing, A in this case, but to start with one half of the comparison. So we can start with bimodal circuits, and you can then use an action verb, showed, and then use a comparative term, greater A, and then you use the other part of the comparison, the monomodal circuits. So you have these two approaches to writing comparisons. And the idea here is that if you write in these ways, you'll always specify what two sets of conditions you're working with, you're comparing, and what parameter or characteristic or measurement you're comparing, A in this case. And the comparison will be clear. A is larger under what conditions, then under what other conditions. The last part of these rules I'd like to give you is, when you're making comparisons, if you have information that applies to the entire comparison, don't put it at the end. Like if we look at this example, because then here it's not clear whether that Lorentzian trap applies only to monomodal circuits or does it also apply to bimodal. It's unclear. Remember, your readers, they're reading your work from left to right. And when they find something and they want to know to what it's associated, they're usually going to go backwards systematically. They'll start with the next nearest thing, then the next nearest thing, then the next nearest thing. And they'll scan until they find what appears to be a reasonable match. In this case, let's imagine our Lorentzian trap applies to the entire sentence, so it's very far away from the beginning. Most readers will associate it initially only with the end, with, in this case, monomodal circuits. So any information that applies to the entire comparison, Put it at the beginning of the comparison as part of the setup framework, like in this example.